Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Stace Gaddy to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose, insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning, my friends. Welcome into another edition of Life Planning 101 right here on KATX. And don't forget KWBY as well. I'm Stace Gaddy. Our guest and expert this morning, as always, Angela Robinson from Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Stace. And I have a fun topic this morning. I'm so excited to be talking about it. I guess it's fun. There's a lot of drama involved with this topic. We've had a lot of questions surrounding this for various reasons, and I'll get to some of those stories and questions later on in the show. But I want you to think about something this morning. I want you to remember the last time you bought a new mattress. Can you remember the last time you bought a new mattress, Stace?
No.
No, most people can't, and we don't shop for them very often. And the difference between shopping for most things in life that we do, often, and shopping for a mattress is that we're really not sure how to price one because we don't do it very often. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. So, it's been ages since we bought that last one. We have no reference point. So what do we do? If we need to shop for a mattress, what do you actually do?
Internet?
Yeah, internet, or go to a mattress store, lie down on a few mattresses.
Down on it,
yeah,
right.
Lie down on a few mattresses that fit in your price range. And then we rely on the salesperson in that store to be honest, and we rely on their expertise. And then we just basically, if it feels good, feels comfortable, we say, I want that one. And that's the extent of it. The thing that we don't do is we really don't ask that salesperson to cut it open and show us everything that they've actually told us that this mattress is composed of and how it's made and things like this. And interestingly enough, shopping for a mattress is a lot like shopping for life insurance. There's only one difference, and it is a big one. How long does it take you to figure out that you've bought a bad mattress?
One night.
Yeah, one night, 1 week at most,
one
right?
Nap.
Yeah. One nap, right? And usually if you bought a bad mattress, what can you do?
Take it back.
Yeah, you can take it back, and you have very little or no out-of-pocket expenses. But how long does it take you to figure out you bought a bad life insurance policy?
Until you die?
Yes, that is a good
that
answer.
Right?
Yeah, and sometimes it is. And it is an alarming answer for most people that it's not for decades, if they're lucky. And really, it's usually not until it's too late.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? What is the point of that? And I want to share with you a little story that we experienced. We had a gentleman come into our office. It was an introduction from one of our clients. And he's a great man. And he said, my mom, she's on hospice. I really need you to focus on her stuff and review her stuff and make sure everything's in good order like it is. And so the first thing we looked at was this $1 million life insurance policy that they had on mom. And so we took a look at it, got it analyzed, and they had put over $1 million of premium into this policy. They'd put more money into this policy than had actually been there for death, but for them to get out. And get this, they were in jeopardy of this policy lapsing within the next 30 days. Meaning that if she didn't die within those next 30 days, they were going to get zero back out of that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really scary, right?
How is that even possible? I guess you're going to tell us.
Yes, so that's the whole point of the show. And recently, I will say, we were honored. We were inducted into something called the Forum 400. I spent a week in January actually at the Forum 400 event, and it is comprised of the very best minds in the life insurance business. And one of the keynote speakers spoke in depth about this analogy we talked about, that new mattress, and explaining that. So when we come back, I'm really going to give you an in-depth view into what's actually happening inside a life insurance policy that could have caused this, and then, of course, how to avoid that.
The topic, I love this analogy, is your life insurance like a bad mattress? Oh, we hope it isn't. Angela Robinson from Kennedy Financial Services, our guest and expert. She's going to tell us more right after these messages. As always, a special thank you to all of our sponsors right here at KATX Radio. One of our best that we love, Kennedy Financial Services. They are the hosts and producers of this wonderful free program called Life Planning 101. In our second segment now with Angela Robinson. Good morning again.
Good morning. And speaking of our sponsors, I do want to let everybody know to be listening closely to this segment of the show for our trivia answers, because we do have another sponsor for the show today, Comet Cleaners here in Eastland, Texas. They're offering 3 pairs of pants, either dry cleaned or starched, for the answer to our trivia, which we will be asking at the end of the show. So make sure you listen carefully. But we have a very good topic today, and we're talking about life insurance and some little known facts about life insurance, because a lot of people don't realize that life insurance, like your investments, needs to be reviewed at least annually. And I'm not talking about just getting your statement and looking at it. I'm talking about cutting into that mattress. Like if you wanted to buy a mattress at the store and you can't do. But in a life insurance policy, I think it's a little too detrimental. We've got to cut into that mattress and actually see what it's composed of and see what it's doing. So I mentioned before the show about that analogy with the buying a mattress. And I mentioned that we visited this Forum 400 that we got inducted into. And one of the keynote speakers, he spoke in depth about the inner workings of a life insurance policy and that there are really no two alike. In fact, you can take the same policy written on the same day on 2 different lives, and one may be in great shape after 15 years, while the other one after 15 years is about to lapse, which means you're about to lose your insurance regardless of whether or not you've paid your premiums. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I want to know how.
So, we are in a very interesting environment with life insurance right now. Would you agree with me life expectancy is increasing?
Absolutely.
Okay, so common thought would be, well, shouldn't the cost of insurance be going down, right? If we're living longer,
Logically, yeah.
logically that would be the case, and it is true. But on the other hand, we've had this trend for over the past 30 years, and it's called interest rates declining.
Okay.
I want you to think about this. Let's say, back in 2006, I actually had a savings account that was paying me 4% in 2006. And here we are 10 years later, and what does a savings account pay you today?
1.5?
Yeah, 0.1.5.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Golly.
horrible. It's horrible. But, the question is, and if we would have looked 10 years before that, and 10 years before that, and do you think people back in the 80s or 90s, when they were writing life insurance policies, would have ever dreamed that interest rates would be at 0?
No.
No, they wouldn't have dreamed that. And so we've got this trend that's happened over the last 30 years of declining interest rates. And really, since 2010, 2011, they've stagnated. They've done nothing. Even though the Fed raised rates last quarter, we've still not seen a move in interest rates. It's been an uncanny environment in what's happening. And, some may call this, we are going through stagflation. Some may think that we're fighting deflationary environment like Japan. Some may think that we're about to enter into an inflationary environment like we've never seen. And we really don't know what the course of that means. But what we do know is what it's doing as an effect on life insurance policies.
What we also know is that no one other than an expert would ever consider insurance as a speculative endeavor.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That is totally fair, unless you're doing a variable life insurance policy where you're investing inside the market, inside your policy.
Yeah.
And you're actually doing high-risk investments inside of that.
Just your basic
But
insurance.
You're right. We buy it as a safety instrument. And please don't get me wrong, okay? I think insurance is one of the best tools in our toolkit, because I can't tell you how many times that it has been a lifesaver for people. It has saved their bacon, so to speak, right? Because if they hadn't had it, their family would be devastated in so many respects, and or business or their kids or their grandkids or their spouse. So I think there's a lot of good reasons for it, but I think we have to know what the problems are and really understand when you go buy a policy, or if you have a current policy, you need to be knowing what's going on in this environment, and you need to be reviewing it. And just like I mentioned earlier about that policy they put over $1 million into, there's a lot of problems out there. So I want you to think about that downward trend on interest rates, what that's actually doing, right? So if we have this downward trend on interest rates, that causes the insurance companies not to be able to invest their money at a higher rate.
Right.
Okay. So does that make the insurance more expensive or less expensive for you?
More
Expensive, right? Okay. And this doesn't get into the fact of what the underwriters are doing today. Believe it or not, they're actually looking at your Facebook account. Like if you apply as a non-smoker, they're going onto your Facebook account, making sure that you're really a non-smoker, which is crazy.
They should.
Yeah.
They should. I mean, if people are going to lie about those kind of things, then more power to them, honestly.
That's right. And it's good they're doing this because they're getting more accurate. This is another interesting thing I learned at that conference is if you live in a close proximity to a fast food restaurant or fast food area, you're more likely to eat that fast food, and they're going to look at that.
Oh, man.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh.
Okay, so what does all this mean for that existing policy owner or someone that needs to buy one? That's what we're going to talk about when we come back, and we're going to talk about exactly what you need to do to be able to protect your current policies, or if you're in the market shopping for one, not feel like you're buying a mattress and realizing it's a bad mattress after years of having it.
Listen, I'm stuck on if I live near a fast food restaurant, they're going to raise my my insurance premiums because they think I'm eating it. That's not fair, Angela Robinson.
It's true, though.
Wow.
You know it is. If you live close to one, how easy is it?
There you go, folks.
Just stop in and get some.
How many of you have thought about that? I guarantee you probably about zero. That's the name of this game and the point of this show, Life Planning 101, information you're not going to get anywhere else with Angela Robinson. We're going to take a quick break and come right back for our final segment. Stay with us. Welcome back in, folks, to the final segment of Life Planning 101. So glad that you're with us. Again, information you're not going to hear anywhere else, and particularly it's free. But be sure and stop in to Kennedy Financial Services for more detailed stuff, and they're going to look at your life and things that you need. It's life planning. Today's topic is your life insurance like a bad mattress. Here's Angela Robinson.
Thanks, Stace. And I know before the show we were getting pretty in depth on what's actually happening inside these insurance policies. And actually, this year, I tell you what, we've looked at more insurance policies in the last 30 days than we have in, 10 years for new people, because I think people are finally getting the drift of why is my cash value going down every year in this policy I owned? And, when we look inside of those things and we see that they're about to run out in 5 years or 7 years and a person's 60 years old, it's a little bit freaky. And especially when they've put over, $100,000 into a policy.
And that money is just gone, right?
The money just disappears.
Yeah.
And it's bad monitoring. And we actually had a client this week that we were doing some policy work on, and they said, well, we just, and I'm not going to mention the carrier's name because it's really not the carrier's fault. They said, we're just going to call them up because this really frustrates us. And I said, well, here's the deal. I said, it goes back to that story. Do you really think that agent back in the 1980s thought interest rates would be at zero today?
Right. They didn't know.
They didn't know. So it's not their fault. What is needed to do, though, is to analyze that life insurance policy at the very least annually. You have to treat your life insurance policy like your investments. And that doesn't mean just read your statement. It means you request to see the inner workings of your policy based on what is specific to your policy.
Yes.
And that gets pretty hairy, pretty detailed, but you have to do it because you got to remember, insurance is like a piece of Swiss cheese. We say that all the time. It's got holes in it all over the place, and we've got to identify the holes and know where they are so we can make our way around them. And otherwise, you're going to wake up one day with a notice that your policy is about to lapse after years of making premiums. And we have literally this year seen 3 policies that are in the same shape that I just told you about with that one client that are in jeopardy of lapsing next 5 to 7 years, and they have big dollars in them today. So, getting that money out of those policies, getting them into a policy that actually is working for their money, where their money can grow, is very important, or doing something else with it, right? If you don't actually need the insurance anymore. And, and a lot of people, when I say need the insurance, I always say this is at the end of the day, you got to remember, why did you buy that policy in the first place? And my guess is because it was because you love someone. Right? You wanted to make sure that they had that protection in the event you're gone. And through our experience of working with people, and we have clients that have been with us since we started in business, and we've never seen a husband and wife love each other less than the day they got married than when they're celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. I think it's very important to remember why you bought that policy and really addressing that why, emotional why, in conjunction with the analysis, because it's a two-part component. You can't just get rid of something just because you fear it, right?
Yes.
And so let's talk about buyers today in the market, okay? And again, I don't want you to get me wrong. I believe life insurance is one of those best tools, and sometimes it's a must-have. It's not just a solution for the obvious, but for so many things. Taxes, believe it or not, can be a huge, huge tax play. Business planning, retirement income, in fact, tax-free retirement income if you set it up right. Liquidity, conservative investment, like you mentioned earlier, Stace, it can be positioned as a conservative investment inside your portfolio. We've done that before. Where can you find 4%? Well, you can find it in an insurance policy. An aggressive investment, equalizing inheritances. I know where we are, lots of people own land or farms or have businesses, and they have one kid that wants it and one kid that doesn't. How do you equalize that? So it takes care of that problem. I mean, it can do so many things. Yet, if you buy a policy today, here's your warning. You could be buying an old policy that is not what you personally need and will inevitably have problems. And I don't want you to blame this on any in particular agent. Okay, it's kind of like going to that mattress shop. Who trains the salespeople at the mattress shop?
The managers.
The managers,
I guess.
right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a top-down approach. Would you agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so do they really know what they don't know outside of their store?
No, they do not know what they do not know.
That's right. They don't know what they don't know, right? Okay.
Right.
Well, an insurance agent is a lot like that. Outside of their company and who they work with and what they've been trained on, they may not even know what they are selling you. It has nothing to do with their honesty, integrity, or expertise. They may not know it. And so my suggestion to you is that you demand to cut into that mattress, all right, and look at all the what ifs. What if interest rates stagnate and they don't go back up? What if I can't get a 7% return on my investments over 30 years? What if I buy this indexed UL and they lower the cap rates in it, and you illustrated it to me, Mr. Insurance agent, at 7, and now the best it's going to perform is 4? Or what if the company is unable to pay dividends? What happens to that whole life policy? You have to look at those worst case scenarios. You have to do it. We do it. When we analyze a new policy, we literally, and I know they get frustrated with us at these companies, we request quotes. And it's not that we're, requesting those quotes just to show the buyer what's going on. It's that we know, here's the worst case scenario, because here's what I do know is I am a second generation in my business. Okay, in our business, our family business. We plan to have a third generation. We want to sell from the inside out. So I don't want anyone coming back and saying, why did you sell my mom and dad this policy? Why did you sell my grandma and my grandpa this policy? We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by our clients and showing them all the risks that are there and letting them make a good decision based on that. Because no matter what you do, you've got risk, okay? If you think about if you have zero risk, you're going to get what? Zero return.
Zero reward.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through VSR Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisor and member of FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services is not owned or controlled by VSR Financial Services Incorporated.